As easy as it is to dissect what's going wrong with a particular player, club, coach, or media figure, sometimes you've got to celebrate the right stuff, the good stuff, the players, the teams, the coaches that are dominating, and that's what we're doing in this video. One player per club who is in career best form. And of course, some clubs early on in 25 are going to have a lot of players, or some, or just more than one player in career best form. My simple rule there is it's going to be either the most underrated or least talked about player who is in career best form. So think about it like this. My Carlton player is not Tom De Koning, because we already know how good Tom De Koning has been. He's been talked about to death. Why would you watch me if I talked about the same player or topic that everyone else is talking about? How pointless would that be? So just keep that in mind. It's not that this is the most informed player. It's just the one that I think deserves a little bit more credit than they're getting, who is also in career best form. Keep that in mind as we go through, and if you think someone else deserves a shout out, that's what the comments are for. So, without further ado, and in alphabetical order, but you can look at your team in the description, let's do it. There is just something about left-footed key defenders that is just everything that I am looking for and more as a footy watcher. The Crows are flying, and so is Josh, who coming into the year, if you weren't an Adelaide supporter, you'd be forgiven for thinking that he would just be a Nick Murray, Jordan Butts, part of the rotating door that seems to be in place at the Crows. No one really knew or knows, even if the Crows have got their right key back mix. Worrell has definitely put his hand up in a massive way. 20 disposals and the rest of his fantastic stats so far have proven that, and his ability to play off and on his opponent, particularly from a side or even front shoulder point of view, has been exemplary. A lot of people are going to give the Crows credit for having amazing form, and so they should. They've scored over 110 points per game this season already. All I'm saying is let's give some credit to the defenders, and also guys like Jake Saligo, who is also in career best form as well, worthy of a shout out. Riley Thilthorpe as well. We love a good redemption story, and if you've watched the Parks and Rec blooper reel, you will know that comeback stories can also be the funniest thing you've ever seen. Jared Berry is the epitome of that. His grand final was not him at his best, and he's responded in a brilliant way. I love the fact that he has gone to a more halfback-ish style role, or defensive winger style role, and he is thriving there, which is awesome to see. He's had an interesting career, from drafted as an inside midfielder, particularly in the first half of his draft year, then to a wing, a little bit of half forward before Bailey and Rayner really took off in the late 2010s, early 2020s, and he is dominating now. Some of his stats are not career best, but his form, output, and ability to add to Brisbane structure, I don't think we've seen him better than this, to be honest. And as Brisbane still, for me, are the number one team in the competition, he is a central cog of that. And just 18 months out from that 2023 grand final, it is a credit to him. I like watching him play. For a gluttony of reasons, we haven't actually seen Jack Silvagni be maybe what some people might say is the best version of him. Now, outside of form, health, he's also had a positional crisis as well. He was the second ruck, and Carlton have made the amazing decision to suddenly make that Patrick Cripps. I also don't think Silvagni is the answer. Why not give Brody Kemp a go? Because I don't think you could play TDK and Pitnet, but Jack trained all off-season effectively down back, and it is paying dividends. Even in the last game against the Bulldogs, he absolutely slaughtered Aaron Norton, which is a credit to him. Made him genuinely look second-rate. His ball use is still iffy sometimes, but celebrating what he can do, we haven't seen a version of him that looks as dangerous as he is right now. And against the Hawks, he was a swingman and looked like he may have single-handedly got them back into that game, but he looks so sure of himself behind the ball, and that ability to lock down an opponent adds an extra weapon. I think if Carlton had one wish at the moment, it would be to make him the exact same player, maybe a little bit better, 3 or 4 inches taller, because it would be the missing piece at centre-half back that they're looking for. I am pretty sure at the end of the 22 Hawks player sponsor night. I had bored Ned Long to death, was chatting to him for about 10-15 minutes, just about life, footy, those kinds of things. I don't think I fanboyed or embarrassed myself or said anything stupid, but he didn't really play a whole lot for the Hawks after that, and then eventually went to Collingwood. So getting as far away from Daz as possible was his go. I like Ned as a player. I really love him as a person. He is super polite and a terrific guy. Yes, he was the sub against Port. Collingwood don't really have a lot of contributors to this part of the conversation because we're probably a month out from saying Bobby Hill is in career best form. We're probably a month out from believing in Dan McStay outside of the Port Adelaide game, which he was awesome in. Maybe want to see a little bit more exposed form there. And a couple of the guys down back, again, probably need to just get themselves into gear a little bit more, even though I like where the Pies are at. As sub, he was great and is averaging really good numbers for a guy who effectively is trying to play the Tom Mitchell role as best he can. Long live Ned. Great man. Last year, I had Sam Draper as a bottom six ruckman in my ruck ranking videos, but I don't think we've seen him be as damaging forward of the ball and outside of the stoppage as he has been right now. He and Nick Bryan are working together reasonably well. Bryan is your more traditional 1970s, early 80s style kick behind the play kind of ruckman, whereas Draper is trying to get forward a lot more, is already on his way to a career best offensive season, and a good time to do it with his free agency contract coming. Depending on what the band compensation would be, I still find it unlikely he'll be in Essendon colours unless he does sign a lesser contract than maybe an Adelaide will offer him. I don't know how good of a fit he'll be at the Crows either, but this is a video on credit where it's due for a variety of reasons. A guy that I've criticised in the past taking the piss in 25, you love to see it. Not just a saviour in a lot of Supercoach and AFL fantasy teams in 25, Nod has been fantastic. Now, I found it really strange that he had 24 CBAs in round 1 and 0 in round 2, but his ability to adjust to the different roles that Justin Longmuir is giving him has been a credit to him. I am also the kind of conspiratorial footy fan that rates jumper numbers on the back of blokes, and I don't know what it is, but the number 30 suits him in a massive way. Shea Bolton does not suit number 15 at all. Nod fits the number 30 absolutely perfectly, and his ability to be damaging inside and outside of the stoppage by foot, by hand, and with his meters gained means that a weapon without Hayden Young in the team has revealed itself, and I hope that they can still give him some CBAs. Freo's midfield might look more damaging without Jaeger O'Meara in it. Could it be another Jack McRae style? Yes, he can get a lot of the ball 30 touches, but does it disturb the peace? We might need some more exposed form on that, and hopefully we get more exposed form from Nathan O'Driscoll as well, because he has been awesome. In my over 2 decades of watching footy now, I think Geelong defenders have just gone under the radar the entire time. It took, especially mainstream footy media, way too long to figure out Corey Enright was a superstar, even though he won 2 best and fairests in a premiership team. And look, I'm not saying that Jack Henry is the Corey Enright of the modern day Geelong, but you can't really identify a game where he gets the piss taken out of him, and with how threatening he has been with ball in hand, both with and without Tom Stewart, adding that weapon to his bow and adding even more versatility to an already versatile player opens up a lot of possibilities for the Cats. Now, how he looks with Stewart back, and if Sam De Koning is going to go back to a key position defender role, is going to be interesting to see, but the amount of times that he was being used as the player furthest back in the switch in order to set up play both at Marvel Stadium against the Saints and up at the Gabba was a sight to behold, and credit to him. The older brothers can be a little bit boring, to be honest, in nearly any sport, but we shouldn't forget just how good of a player Jack is. I think my problem with predicting stuff is that I'm a year too early, which means the stuff that I get wrong, I might actually get right a year later. Take the Adelaide example. I had them as top 4 last year. The most popular video I'd ever done at that point was that video, and then as Adelaide completely shat the bed last year, I had to go back, revisit it, and see where it went wrong. And now look at the Crows. I'm not saying they're going to be top 4, but the take looks a hell of a lot better now when Kane Corn said it, than when I did it last year. Bailey Humphrey is exactly the same. Last year I had a which players will become A-graders in 24, and look, the John Newcombe call for me, massive tick, especially the way he ended the year and the way that he played in the finals. And Bailey Humphrey was a part of that video as well, and his numbers and output in this side so far have reflected that in a big way. Now, how he looks with Flanders back in the team, even though Noble, Rioli, and Flanders off the halfback flank, even though they won't offer a whole lot pressure-wise, is going to be a rebounding juggernaut. Flanders is also going to get CBAs, which is where a lot of Humphrey's output is coming from. I also think with the added ink, he's got a toughness that he brings to the fray, and I think Dimmer is going to use him not like Dusty, because you can't expect that of a young player, but as a genuine centre forward threat moving forward to counteract the contested boringness, and I mean that in a very positive way, about Matt Rowell, because he's even got Touk Miller coming off the centre square as well. So hopefully there's still room for Bailey to grow, and he could genuinely explode by the end of the year. Very good player. Not nicknamed Lockie Dash for nothing, I think the career bestness of Ash's start to the year has actually been the consistency in his application. Some of his numbers, in fact, the great majority of his numbers are either just career best or just under compared to 23. So why am I saying he's in career best form? Well, like I said, the application that he is putting in, the fact he is getting the ball further up the ground and delivering inside 50 more is A-okay with me. And also with Lockie Whitfield there, he kind of became the number 2 banana. And then when Isaac Cumming was at halfback, he was also just one of the guys, as Connor Ryden is going to have to do more shutdown roles because there are more quality small forwards than there have ever been in the competition. You could argue that means more is going to be put on Lockie's shoulders. So whether he's taking a kick out or he is ready to rebound on a wing halfback turnover in order to make you pay, he cannot be forgotten amongst a plethora of quality Giants players. I've said it on Twitter, I've said it in my Hawthorn reactions, I was wrong on Cam Mackenzie. My worry, especially in round 0, and I still stand by what I said, that his eyes were moving before his legs were, and he was getting caught with the ball too often. As he's getting more consistency and more time on ground, to be honest, so many of his early games were simply 60, 62, 65% time on ground. That has increased in the last couple of weeks, and boy, has he looked comfortable. He was a star against the Giants and has looked really good throughout the start of the year. On this exposed form, as he keeps growing, he may end up taking the spot of, say, a Jimmy Worpel as number 3 in the depth chart. Jimmy is a free agent at the end of the year, and someone like a West Coast or Geelong could seriously look at him. And if Mackenzie becomes the number 3 there, we might be really comfortable with that. Outside of Newcombe, Day, and of course you've got Nash, Bash and Crash in there, the Irishman, who's going to be a stayer in there. So Mackenzie is a part of that fold, whether Worpel is there or not. I think so, but just like Tom Mitchell leaving brought the best out of Jimmy Worpel, could a Worpel-less Hawthorn, if that's the case, bring the best out of Mackenzie? I'm starting to become more convinced that it might. Jeez, he's good. When Alex Neil-Bullen departed the D's to the Crows, it was going to be a fait accompli that Tom Sparrow was going to become that high half forward, and then for the last fortnight, he has played half of his time down back. Sure, who knows what goes on in the eyes of Simon Goodwin and the Demons coaching staff, but it's paid off, averaging 20 disposals for the first time in his career and looking more damaging. His impact per possession is going up, as well as his aforementioned disposals. Melbourne are in a bit of a hole right now, as we know, and not to stick the boot in, but the positives are going to be coming thick and fast. Outside players, hopefully we get to see a little bit more of Jacob Van Rooyen. Matty Jefferson, when he comes back from injury, we'll be able to see how Harrison Petty goes, and a few of their young half-backs when they're fully fit. Judd McVie, Trent Rivers, these kinds of guys. Tommy Sparrow can add himself to that list and maybe become a little bit of a utility for them, can go forward, go back, and have an impact one way or another. Started very well. 2 Toms in a row, and I'm going to say that Tom Powell was the Tua Tagovailoa of the AFL. And if you don't know who Tua is, he is the quarterback of my NFL team, the Miami Dolphins. Why do I say that these two are connected? Well, fans are divided by him. Even North's most passionate supporters could not seem to agree on what his output was going to be, and he was also the MVP of off-season highlights, the same as Tua is. Every ball from Tua in the off-season is either perfect or kind of hidden in his underthrowing. With Tom Powell, it was always his burst from stoppage, blind turning, and the vision would often cut away after he's kicked the footy, maybe suggesting that he wasn't hitting his targets. All the same news came out of North in the offseason, that he is dominating and ready to go to another level. North fans were excited. A lot of people were skeptical. 3 rounds in, 26 disposals per game, taking the absolute piss and probably being North's best midfielder to start the season. Awesome. The 2020 draft unearths another diamond, which is good because a lot of that draft is just rough. When you're a father-son player and even with a family as rich as the Burgoynes are in talent, it's so cool to see that Jace is not Peter, not Sean, but has got traits of both while being his own player. Having his self-identity realised on the footy field is going to propel him forward, and he's something that I can see differentiating a lot of players from their parents' shadow. Yes, Peter Dacos started out as a midfielder, for example, and yes, Nick does some things that people often compare to his dad, but they are not the same player. It is clear as day that they just did not operate in the same way, for better or worse. Peter was an absolute superstar, so is Nick. Peter was an absolute superstar, and I think Jace is going to get there. He is one of those rare kinds of players that no matter the scenario, you feel a sense of calm when the ball is in his hand, and even though he is basically see-through, he's that light, he is stronger in the contest than you think and very rarely goes to ground. Was also excellent in the last game against the Bombers as well, when a lot of his teammates were not, and could see his trajectory going through the roof as his career continues. As Richmond are going through their rebuild, it was clear that it was going to be the kids to watch out for, the senior players who have to anchor the ship. And then it was, what are they going to get out of their mid-aged guys? I know Jack Ross is not old, and I'm not saying he's a part of that 27, 28-year-old group that should be accelerating towards A-grade status, but compared to a lot of the players that are being played at the Tigers or drafted in the last year or two, he would be a senior for those guys while still being young enough to probably relate to them a little bit, whose exposed form coming into this year was iffy at best. He'd had a few good games as sub. I was there for Richmond and Sydney at the MCG a couple of years ago where he was the best on the ground for 2.5 quarters of that game, but now it looks like he's coming into his own. He took the absolute piss against the Blues. He'll get 3 votes in that game, or at least he should. If not, Toby Nankervis and Tom De Koning could probably fight it out. I would give it to Ross, though, for his 26 disposals and multiple goals, averaging 21 on the season. He was solid without being great against the Saints, but if that kind of game is his floor, and he doesn't have too many of those and can get some more consistency, amazing. We haven't seen him put together a start to a season as good as this, and he is going to be my Richmond pick. You could be forgiven for thinking a tagger's first, second, and third priority is stopping their opponent, and anything they can do with ball in hand is just a bonus. Think of someone like James Jordan, for example. Sydney are not expecting him to shut down, say, a Lachie Neale, and then go get 25, 30 disposals on his own. Sydney would any day take Jordan having 12 disposals a game if his opponents were as well. Someone like Cameron Ling was a special kind of tagger because he could shut down or at least minimise the impact of the game's best midfielders and still kill you as a part of offensive chains. I see that in Marcus Windhager. I'm not saying he is Cameron Ling reincarnated, but in terms of a damaging player who will still stand next to and really bother the opposition's best, that's where I think his X factor can kick in. And as St. Kilda continually build a midfield probably post Zach Jones and Jack Steele and get some more youth in there. Will they roll Sinclair, Wanganeen, Miller through there? Will Travalia end up being a midfielder? We will wait and see. Filippo has still got to come back. They've got Max Hall. They've got Hugo Garcia, so they've got some guys there. Angus Hasty as well can roll through there a little bit. But Winhager being the first magnet on that midfield board, because he's got a job to do and can go and get 20 disposals himself, is bloody invaluable. So credit to you, young man. In the famous Danny Frawley, number 2, who was a great shutdown player himself, obviously, down back. Rest in peace, Spud. Your jumper is in very good hands. Not the first and not the last player on this list to have a change of role, but Sam Wicks as a shutdown small defender has been a joy to behold. Even though it was really annoying how well he played on Nick Watson in round 0, that's what you want from your lockdown small defenders. He's done jobs, not as much on Watson, on Rayner and Bolton. And yes, had some time on Zach Bailey, but Bailey's 4 goals weren't really that close to his opponent. A lot of them happen from stoppage or turnover, which is a little bit more forgivable. Wicks is not losing his one-on-one contests, which is what you want from your small defenders. 15 touches a game is a credit to him, but again, he's not going to be the defender they want getting 20, 25 touches. You've got Nick Blakey, Matt Roberts to do those kinds of things, and Riley Bice, if they can fit him not as the sub in as many places as possible, would be fantastic, or in as many games as possible, I should say. So Wicks doing what he needs to do to annoy the crap out of small defenders, again, is another versatile arrow that Sydney can add to their bow. And post-bye, I can't wait to see what he'll do against the competition's best. Light the candle. Will this be the last time I say Ryan Marich should be West Coast's James Sicily? Probably not, but he should be West Coast's next James Sicily. Now, he had 9 disposals in the first game of the year, but his last 2 performances have been outstanding. Granted, West Coast aren't offering a lot of names in this category, to be honest, but he looks so sure of himself with his kick. Yes, he's not kicking at 90%, but no one is. And what's really frustrating in this conversation, especially outside of Sis, and, I love him obviously as the captain of my footy club, but if you were going to play that taller defender role who is designated to be a kicker, it's almost like if you're not the best kick in the competition, you're going to get criticised for playing in that role. I see it a lot with Jordan Ridley. I see it a lot in Luke Ryan, although in 24 that was more deserved because Ryan wasn't biting off dangerous kicks. You're not going to hit every kick. You're really not. You're probably, if you can hit 4 out of 5, and if you can hit 3 out of 5 on the really dangerous kicks and defend like hell, you're good to go, because when it comes off, it works. And I can almost guarantee you that when West Coast do get better and open up their transition and even turnover game, the ball in his hands with better teammates around him and better offensive chains being set up, his ability to damage the opposition is going to go through the bloody roof. And I can't wait to see it happen. Love him. In my eyes, a member of Bevo's C-grade slop of half-forwards that don't really or didn't really do a whole lot, Latham Vandermeer has proved that wrong. Normally, bleach dyeing your hair is probably a sign of you having a mental breakdown, but he seems to have taken it in his stride, and his performance is absolutely going through the roof as well. I don't care if you think his numbers are not that impressive on screen, but his efforts as a high half forward have a lot of people talking about him being in the All-Australian squad if there was a rolling one right now, and it's hard to disagree with. Now, as we know, high half forwards don't get both spots in the All-Australian team and can even struggle to get one. But his ability to get up the ground and back, his impact in defensive 50 is becoming as important as his ability to impact the game forward of 50. And 3 times against the Blues especially, I can remember that he was either very well outpositioned, but he had a 2-on-1 and then a 3-on-2 in which he won the ball and got it out to Buku Kamas with Sam Davidson and 3 Blues coming after him. Just showed how hungry he is for the footy, and it looks like he is turning that reputation around and finding footy and form that will whet the Dogs' appetite moving forward into 25. So there you go, guys. There is 1 player per club with hopefully some surprising picks in there. Let me know what you think. Like the video if you like the video. Comment in order to interact. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy cohort. The channel is going really well at the moment, of which I'm extremely grateful for. Your ability to engage, give feedback, like, all of that stuff. I ask for it and I'm annoying about it because it really does help. and it means the world, guys. So I hope you're doing well. Enjoy the rest of your week. I am out of here. Goodbye.